My name is Jerry Ross, and welcome to my studio. Thanks for coming over. I've been in Eugene since 1974, and I've been a painter since age 7, approximately. I'm originally from Buffalo, New York, where I currently have a painting on display in the Birchfield Penny Art Center Museum at Buffalo State College. It's a portrait of Martin Sostra, an Afro-American who got arrested and sentenced to 43 years for running a black bookstore and getting the attention of the Buffalo Police Department, and ending up with him being framed with heroin. Anyway, I got involved in the case because I formed the defense committee, and then later from the mugshot I made a portrait. And now that portrait's on display in an art museum in Buffalo. So this guy's name is Martin Ramirez Sostra. He's a Afro-Puerto Rican. And I got involved in his case in 1967 when there was a rebellion in Buffalo. And after that, the FBI harassed me so much that I had to really leave the area, and that's when I decided to come out west and come to Eugene, along with the rest of the 60s. So I did attend Buffalo State College, Teachers College, and I was in the teacher corps. And what happened was I was in a teacher corps, Peace Corps program. I was supposed to go to Afghanistan after 2 years of teacher corps preparation. I was supposed to go to Afghanistan in the Peace Corps. But one of the trainers from Afghanistan fell in love with an American girl, took her back to Kabul, and when he got off the plane, his relatives warned him they had better get on the plane and go right back, because the family was going to murder them because of this tradition of theirs. So he came back and told us, and a lot of us quit the program right then and there. We didn't want anything to do with Afghanistan if that's what it was all about. So I ended up going to the Southwest and taking my teacher corps training, and I taught general science in Naco, Arizona, near Bisbee, for 1 year on the border. But prior to getting that job, I had come out to Eugene to interview for teaching jobs. So when I ended up, after that 1 year in Naco, I did a brief trip to visit my sister in London, and then I came back to Tucson and eventually made my way back to Eugene. Now, one thing I was doing, and those were the hippie days, I was teaching Tai Chi in the park, because I had learned Tai Chi in London at the London YMCA, and I found I could earn a little money sharing my knowledge about teaching Tai Chi Chuan in the parks. And I did that in Tucson, and then when I got to Eugene, I did that. And it relates to my art in a way, because the Chinese have something called the 5 Excellencies. Have you heard about that? So the 5 Excellencies are skills that go with one another that Chinese cultivate. So they've got calligraphy and painting that kind of go together, brush calligraphy. And then they have the healing arts and the martial arts. If you can take a life, you should be able to save a life. So those were those are the 4 excellencies, and the 5th excellency is philosophy. And I was a philosophy major at the University of Buffalo. So putting all those things together, I liked and enjoyed when I taught Tai Chi to share some philosophy, some Taoist philosophy. Now that I'm situated here in Eugene in my studio, and I've got a view of Spencer Butte, the mountain right off my porch of the studio, I use that as an opportunity to meditate on the mountain and draw energy. When I do the Tai Chi form on my deck out here, I can draw in that energy. Helps keep me healthy. So I enjoy, there's a small studio, it's 10 by 20, and it's one of these StudioShed.com kits. They drop it in your driveway, and you get a construction company to throw it up, put a little foundation on it, and you can see it works quite well. I've got my paintings up, some oil paintings. Now there's a mix of paintings. I describe my style as American Verismo, which is actually a form of Neo-Impressionism. And it's based on the Italian I Macchiaioli. They were a group of Tuscan painters that painted around 1860 something or other. And they fought with Garibaldi, Giuseppe Garibaldi. I have Garibaldi's portrait on the easel out there on the porch. I like to paint his portrait a lot. But anyway, there's a whole Italian tradition of artists being soldiers and having to paint very rapidly because they're on horseback. And they developed that kind of rapid style. It's calligraphic, expressive brushwork, and that's what I call, like this battle scene I did, that's actually an old master study. It's after Rubens. But the style I call American Verismo. And the problem is, since I've turned 80, I'm losing some of my vision, and I can't see the values as clearly as I used to. Hopefully I'll get rid of this problem and I'll cure myself. But if I don't, then I'm stuck with the situation right what I have right now, which is I have to change my style. So I've been doing these Bardos because I can see the black acrylic marker on paper a lot better than I can see a brushstroke with my current situation. So what a Bardo is, I invented this. This is comes from the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And a Bardo is a phase or a period of time that you pass through. And the three major Bardos are dying, transitioning, and becoming. And in the Tibetan tradition, they believe in reincarnation. So each of those Bardos you go through, the dying phase, the transitioning phase, and then you reincarnate into something else. But it's a metaphor. I'm just using it as a metaphor. Let's say you're going through a health crisis. It would be the same thing. Well, you need a companion, a guide, or a protector to help you get through these Bardos, these crises. That's where these little creatures come in. So they have a head, they have ears, they often have a little hat on the top, they have a torso, they have two fists ready to fight and protect you. And then they have legs that come down, and each has a foot at the end of the leg. And there's all these different variations, so everyone is very individualistic. You can see them hanging on the wall in different places. And I give each one a separate name and a personality. And I forget what this one is called. It's on the back. I put my explanation on the back. And this one happens to be Kona Bardo, named after my great-grandson. So I should mention that I'm collaborating with my great-grandson, who's age 3. And I'm lucky enough that he lives right next door to us. Because we bought the house down the hill, and right next to us. So every once in a while he'll just pop in, and he'll make a beeline for the studio, and he'll yell, "Paint, paint, draw, draw," you know. So I got to be ready to. So I have some of his work here, and it's 3.
Yeah.
But we are collaborating on artwork together.
Yes.
So that's very nice. That
Yes.
he'll
Nice feeling.
I'll tell him to make a Bardo, and he'll start making these circles, and then I'll finish it. And so you'll see on Facebook I've posted some artworks that are collaborations between Kona Rain and Jerry Ross. So So that becoming phase of the last Bardo I talked about was becoming something else. So because of my vision issues, I've had to change my style. Now, normally I'm a plein air artist. I paint outside in the open air. And I have a group called Club Macchia you may have heard about. So I actually teach classes here in my studio and on my studio deck. And I have a couple students that are still actively studying under me. But what I try to do is get them to a point where they can be independent artists and go out and do their own thing. But one thing I teach is that when I do this neo-impressionism, my American verismo is that you use a limited number of shapes, a limited number of values. We do what's called a four-value study. A value is a shade of dark and light from white to black. Anyway, the ideal number of values for neo-impressionism is 4. So you have black and white, and then nearly black, nearly white. And those 4 values, you can depict any scene very realistically. Now, with a limited vision, then you fall back to 2 values, black and white. And then you end up with more of a graphic image, less of a neo-impressionist image. So inevitably, you move gradually, incrementally, towards what I call conceptual art. And if you're familiar with Jeffrey Koons and his giant balloon rabbit sculptures and things like that. That's conceptual art. And of course that's the dominant school of art now at the U of O and in the academia world throughout the United States, throughout the world, is conceptual art. So as you move into conceptual art, then you end up inventing shapes, inventing ideas. What's important is the idea of a certain piece of art, not so much its texture or its luminosity or its color, but the idea behind it. That's why it's called conceptual. So the idea of a bardo is healing, transitioning, becoming. And so I am becoming something, a different kind of artist than I was before. And I'm very aware that I'm in this becoming bardo phase as I'm becoming a different kind of artist. And now I've got over 30 or 40 of these guys. So I have a show at Halsey Library, for example, right now. And one of the missions of Club Macchia is to bring art and art education to rural areas of Oregon. So we did a thing in Drain for a while. I've been involved with the Brownsville Art Association in Brownsville, Oregon, and Halsey's not too far from there. But I am also involved in Veneta with the Studio 7, and I recently completed a big mural. I encourage everybody to go out to Veneta, and if you get near City Hall in Veneta, there's a street called Broadway, and on one of the rental companies I've got a 100-foot mural I painted out there. I'd like to encourage people to go out, drive out, take a look. So this studio is not very big. You can see it's about 10 by 20, but sometimes it gets very filled up with paintings and drawings, and it's just, you can't even get in here. And so I've got to periodically haul stuff out of here. And I like to keep the deck relatively clear. This is my main painting easel, and then I have another one that's a field easel that's on the deck, and that's more of a plein air easel. So I have those 2 easels, and around the side I've got a 3rd easel. But this is adequate. I've got a place to store some paintings, but like I said, my granddaughter lives next door, and I've filled her house up with paintings. The attic, it's all filled with Jerry Ross paintings. So luckily I have a place to move these things out of here and store them next door. but space is always an issue in any studio. And I like to, I'm an oil painter, so oil paint will drop on the floor. Things will get messy. But that's all part of being an artist, and that doesn't bother me as much as it bothers my wife. She'll charge in here and start cleaning. She'll be horrified. Anyway, I've got this one poster up here. I had a show in Milan about 10 years ago. I'm not sure if there's a year on that. But that was a two-person show.
2006?
Yeah, in 06, okay.
Yeah.
So, that was a while ago.
Yes.
And I've been to Italy about 26 times, myself and my wife Angela. And I've had shows in Rome, Milan, Florence, Bologna, Terni, Loiano, Livorno. I'm sure some other towns I forgot. But it's a big part of my artistic activity has been in Italy. Now, I've also been an arts activist here in Eugene. You may have heard of the Salon de Refusé. So I initiated that, and I kept New Zone alive by protecting its 501(c) status when they closed down on 4th and High. And because of that, we have New Zone today, and I think they kind of honored me with an honorary membership because of that role I played in preserving New Zone. But I've been an arts activist in that sense for a long time. I was instrumental in one of the people involved in forming DIVA, Downtown Initiative for the Visual Arts, which existed for about 10 years downtown till it went out of business. So I enjoy engaging with the community and being somewhat of a provocateur to encourage engagement in the arts. And you know that New Zone has this thing called Zone for All. So the Zone for All is where the community is invited to put anything they want up on the wall, and then we can select from what if we see somebody we really like or like their work, then we invite them to join New Zone. So it's kind of a recruitment tool. But that idea of all comers hang their art, that's kind of also the spirit of the Salon de Refusé. So when we did the first Salon de Refusé, we did it in the Steelhead, or actually the space right above Steelhead Brewery. And it was a great success. We had more people coming to the Salon de Refusé than to the Mary Show. And it went on for 20 years.
Right.
A lot of that I handed off to Steve LaRiccia, who also became the gallery director of New Zone, because I was going to Italy all the time in the summer and I couldn't be here. But now that I'm older and not going to Italy as much, I'm getting back more involved in New Zone. And I'm also involved in, there's a nice little gallery, Make Art with Alejandro, on the Gordon Hotel Alley. So I've got some work up there as well. Okay, so I talked a little bit about being inventive because of my vision issues. I had to use acrylic markers, so I'm inventing some new techniques. So this is done entirely with, let's see if I have this right, yeah, acrylic markers. It's a little more brilliant and a little more fauvistic than my previous work. But I also have the Bardos, and so a lot of what I'm doing is framing. I'll go to a thrift store and I'll buy a box of these frames, and these are mostly designed for photographs, so the back pops right off. You can stick a Bardo sketch in there and pop the back on, and you've got a nice framed little item. And so a lot of what I'm doing lately is framing. A lot of older conceptual art stuff I did maybe 2-3 months ago. They accumulate in the studio, and then I take these frames and I spend my time framing. So it takes time, and it's kind of a labor of love. But I also invented this. Now this, I don't know if you can see this, but this is on a piece of cedar shake. And it's just an ordinary piece of cedar shake. And I take titanium white oil paint and paint a strip across it. Then I take the marker and I do a landscape contour of a horizon. And then I put a wire on the back, and I've got myself a new kind of landscape. It's very modern, very contemporary, but it's a different concept of a landscape. It doesn't have a lot of color, but it just has that structural element of the contour of the land. And a lot of that I've been doing landscape for so many years, I can just pull that out of my head. So that's what I did there. And I believe you'll see on the wall over here behind me another one, a landscape over there that's similar to that. So I love still life. I love doing flowers. Here's another one. And I do combine oil paints with the markers. So I'll get started on a purely white canvas with a very juicy dark black marker, acrylic marker. But then as soon as that's dry, I'll go on top with oil paints. And that's another way to add color. So, there you have it.